Have you ever wondered what it truly takes to build an empire that spans generations? What happens when family loyalty collides with brutal business decisions? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful and influential novels ever written, a book that didn't just capture readers' imaginations, but fundamentally changed how we think about power, family, and the American dream. This is Mario Puzo's masterpiece, The Godfather, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why this story continues to captivate millions decades after its publication. Published in 1969, The Godfather emerged during a tumultuous period in American history when traditional values were being questioned and the establishment faced unprecedented challenges. Mario Puzo, a struggling writer from New York's Hell's Kitchen, crafted this novel from his own experiences growing up in an Italian-American community, combined with extensive research into organised crime families. What began as Puzo's attempt to write a commercially successful book after years of literary struggles became a cultural phenomenon that would define his legacy forever. The novel represents far more than a simple crime story. It's a complex exploration of power dynamics, family structures, and the corrupting influence of absolute authority. Puzo masterfully weaves together themes of loyalty, betrayal, justice, and revenge within the framework of post-World War II America. The book examines how immigrants and their descendants navigated a society that often excluded them from legitimate paths to success and respect. Set primarily in New York, during the 1940s and 1950s, the story follows the Corleone family as they maintain their position atop the criminal underworld while facing challenges from rival families, law enforcement, and internal conflicts. Puzo's meticulous attention to detail creates a world where honor codes and business practices intertwine, where violence serves as both a tool and a language, and where family bonds can be both the strongest armor and the most vulnerable weakness. The novel's impact extended far beyond literature, influencing popular culture, spawning one of cinema's greatest film trilogies, and embedding phrases like "an offer he can't refuse" into everyday language. Its exploration of power structures and family dynamics resonates across cultures and continues to find new audiences with each generation. The Godfather chronicles the rise and transformation of Michael Corleone, the youngest son of Don Vito Corleone, head of one of New York's most powerful crime families. The story begins during the Don's daughter's wedding, where we witness the intricate web of relationships, favours and obligations that define this world. Don Vito, known as the Godfather, commands respect through a combination of wisdom, generosity and carefully measured violence, maintaining his family's position through traditional codes of honour and loyalty. When rival families and ambitious drug dealers threaten the established order, Don Vito faces his greatest challenge. After surviving an assassination attempt that leaves him severely wounded, the family must navigate a dangerous period where their enemies sense weakness. Michael, initially determined to remain outside the family business and pursue a legitimate life as a war veteran, finds himself drawn into the conflict when his father's life hangs in the balance. The attempted murder of Don Vito triggers a series of events that will forever change the Corleone family structure. Michael's transformation from a reluctant outsider to calculated successor forms the heart of the narrative. His journey involves strategic thinking, ruthless decision-making, and the gradual abandonment of conventional morality in favour of family survival and dominance. As Michael assumes increasing responsibility, he must eliminate threats both external and internal. His methods prove more systematic and cold-blooded than his father's traditional approach, representing a generational shift in how power is wielded and maintained. The novel explores how this transformation affects Michael's relationships with his wife Kay, his siblings, and his understanding of himself. The story culminates in Michael's complete assumption of leadership, marked by a series of coordinated strikes against his enemies that demonstrate both his strategic brilliance and his moral transformation. By the novel's end, Michael has secured his family's position, but at tremendous personal cost, having become someone fundamentally different from the man who initially sought to escape this world. The wedding of Connie Corleone serves as the novel's opening masterpiece, establishing the world's rules and relationships. During this celebration, Don Vito holds court in his study, receiving visitors who seek favours according to ancient traditions. This sequence introduces us to the concept of reciprocal obligation that governs every interaction in this society. The wedding demonstrates how legitimate celebrations and criminal business intertwine seamlessly, showing how the Corleone family maintains their position through community connections and carefully balanced relationships. The attempted assassination of Don Vito represents the story's central turning point, shattering the family's sense of security and forcing immediate action. Rival families, led by the Tattaglia and Barzini organizations, orchestrate this attack, to eliminate the primary obstacle to their drug trafficking ambitions. The shooting occurs outside a fruit market, a deliberately public location meant to send a message about the attacker's boldness and the Don's vulnerability. This event transforms Michael from the observer to participant as he realises his father's survival depends on family unity and decisive action. Michael's killing of police captain McCluskey and drug dealer Solozzo marks his irreversible entry into the family business. This double murder requires careful planning and represents Michael's first major strategic decision. The killings occur in a restaurant, a location chosen to appear casual while actually being carefully controlled. Michael's actions demonstrate his capacity for violence and strategic thinking, qualities that will define his leadership style. The aftermath forces Michael into exile in Sicily, where he experiences a different kind of life while his transformation continues. The death of Santino Corleone, Michael's hot-tempered older brother, eliminates the original heir apparent and accelerates Michael's rise to leadership. Santino's murder results from his impulsive nature and his affair with Lucy Mancini, which creates vulnerabilities his enemies exploit. His death occurs at a toll booth, a location that symbolises the price of reckless behaviour and uncontrolled emotion. This loss devastates the family and forces them to recognise that their traditional methods may be insufficient for the challenges they face. Michael's marriage to Apollonia in Sicily represents a brief interlude of happiness before tragedy strikes again. This relationship shows Michael's capacity for love and connection, qualities that will become increasingly rare as his responsibilities grow. Apollonia's death in a car bomb, intended for Michael, demonstrates the personal cost of his chosen path and hardens his resolve to eliminate all threats to his family. The bombing occurs as they attempt to flee Sicily, symbolising how violence follows Michael regardless of his location or intentions. The systematic elimination of the family's enemies during the baptism of Michael's nephew represents the novel's climactic sequence. While Michael publicly participates in a religious ceremony, his soldiers simultaneously execute carefully planned attacks on rival family leaders. This sequence demonstrates Michael's ability to compartmentalise and his preference for comprehensive solutions over partial measures. The coordination required for these simultaneous strikes shows his organisational abilities and his commitment to ending conflicts permanently rather than temporarily. Don Vito's death from a heart attack while playing with his grandson in the garden provides a peaceful contrast to the violence surrounding his family. His final moments occur in a domestic setting, showing the human side of this powerful figure and representing the end of an era. The Don's death removes the last restraint on Michael's methods and completes his transformation from a reluctant participant to absolute leader. The novel concludes with Michael's consolidation of power and his wife Kay's growing understanding of what her husband has become. Their final conversation reveals the distance that has grown between them and the price of Michael's success. Kay's realization that she has married someone fundamentally different from the man she thought she knew provides a sobering conclusion to Michael's journey and establishes the themes that will define his continued story. Leadership often requires making decisions that isolate you from others' tasks, as Michael's journey demonstrates throughout the novel. His transformation from family outsider to absolute leader shows how responsibility can fundamentally change a person's character and relationships. The novel illustrates that effective leadership in challenging circumstances often demands moral compromises that may be necessary for survival but come at tremendous personal cost. Michael's evolution teaches us that leadership positions often require individuals to become someone they never intended to be, and that the weight of responsibility can reshape even the strongest personalities. Power structures depend on reciprocal relationships and carefully maintained balances rather than simple domination. Don Vito's success stems from his understanding that power requires giving as well as taking, creating networks of obligation that serve mutual interests. The novel shows how sustainable power depends on community support, respect, and the ability to solve problems for others. This approach creates loyalty that extends beyond fear and establishes foundations that can survive challenges and transitions. Family loyalty can be both the greatest strength and the most dangerous weakness in any organisation or relationship. The Corleone family's success comes from their absolute commitment to each other, but the same loyalty creates vulnerabilities that enemies can exploit. The novel demonstrates how family bonds can motivate extraordinary sacrifice and dedication, while also creating blind spots and emotional reactions that compromise strategic thinking. Understanding this duality helps us recognise when loyalty serves us and when it might lead to poor decisions. Strategic thinking requires the ability to see beyond immediate circumstances and plan for long-term consequences. Michael's success comes from his capacity to think several moves ahead, considering how current actions will affect future positions. The novel shows how strategic planning often requires patience and the willingness to accept short-term costs for long-term benefits. This approach to problem-solving applies to business, relationships, and personal development, teaching us the value of comprehensive thinking over reactive responses. Justice systems, whether legal or personal, shape behaviour and social structures in profound ways. The novel explores how people create alternative justice systems when official ones fail to meet their needs or reflect their values. Don Vito's role as a problem solver for his community demonstrates how informal justice systems can fill gaps left by formal institutions. Understanding different approaches to justice helps us recognise why people sometimes choose alternative paths and how we might address underlying causes rather than just symptoms. Moral compromises accumulate over time and gradually change who we are, often in ways we don't immediately recognise. Michael's transformation illustrates how small compromises can lead to fundamental changes in character and values. The novel shows that moral flexibility, while sometimes necessary for survival, can gradually erode the principles that originally defined us. This lesson encourages us to carefully consider the long-term implications of our choices and to remain conscious of how our actions affect our character development. Success often requires sacrifice, and the things we give up may ultimately prove more valuable than what we gain. Michael achieves his goals, but loses his original identity, his relationship with his wife, and his connection to the person he once was. The novel demonstrates that every achievement comes with costs, and that we should carefully consider whether our goals justify the sacrifices they require. This perspective helps us make more informed decisions about our priorities and the prices we're willing to pay for success. Generational change brings both opportunities and challenges, as different approaches to similar problems can yield different results. The contrast between Don Vito's traditional methods and Michael's more systematic approach shows how changing circumstances require adaptive strategies. The novel illustrates that while foundational principles may remain constant, the methods for applying them must evolve with changing conditions. This lesson applies to business, leadership, and personal development, reminding us to remain flexible while maintaining core values. The Godfather endures as a masterpiece because it transcends its crime story surface to explore fundamental questions about power, family, and moral choice that resonate across cultures and generations. Mario Puzo created characters who feel completely real despite operating in extraordinary circumstances, allowing readers to understand and even sympathise with people whose actions they might condemn. The novel's exploration of how good people can make terrible choices, how family bonds can both strengthen and corrupt, and how power inevitably changes those who wield it, speaks to universal human experiences. What makes this book particularly powerful is its refusal to provide simple answers or clear moral judgments. Instead, Puzo presents complex characters facing impossible choices and allows readers to grapple with the implications of their decisions. Michael Corleone's transformation serves as a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of power, while simultaneously demonstrating the leadership qualities necessary for survival in hostile environments. This moral ambiguity forces readers to examine their own values and consider what they might do in similar circumstances. The novel's influence extends far beyond literature, having shaped popular culture, influenced political discourse, and provided a framework for understanding power dynamics in various contexts. Its exploration of immigrant experiences, family structures, and alternative justice systems continues to find relevance in contemporary discussions about community loyalty and moral responsibility. The book's enduring popularity demonstrates that great literature doesn't just entertain, but provides tools for understanding ourselves and our world more deeply. Ultimately, The Godfather succeeds because it recognises that the most interesting stories emerge from the intersection of personal relationships and larger social forces, where individual choices have far-reaching consequences and where the pursuit of noble goals through questionable means creates the kind of moral complexity that defines the human experience.